All right, folks, for the download button on a Technology Geek podcast. And as always, folks, you can catch all of our old shows, technologygeek.org. So a lot to talk about as far as tech goes. I got a couple things I want to talk about. But I want to talk about this weekend's Wrestlemania. This past week was WWE Wrestlemania. It's actually one of the biggest, they say one of the biggest sports events or biggest entertainment events of the year. I think 147,000 people. That's just insane. But a lot, like I said, a bunch to talk about. Big news, obviously, the company that owns the UFC is buying WWE for, I think it was $12 billion. WWE, especially with the way the world is right now and the online streaming market, I could see WWE being worth that much. Their content library alone probably is worth that much between all the archives they have and stuff like that. I mean, I know they're obviously a huge company and they're going to be just fine, but you know, I could picture just their content library alone is unbelievable. I mean, just the amount of hours they have of pay-per-views and television stuff and all that. You know, it's just, I can just imagine they have to have so much footage. It's unbelievable. So, like I said, I think they are worth that much, and partnering with the UFC is pretty cool. A couple things I wanted to really kind of point out from the show. Obviously, you could obviously now it's the replay, but 2 nights when I was younger, we all remember before COVID, it was only 1 night. Now they have a 2-night thing. I think it's different. I like it. I like how they spread the matches out, gives everybody a little more time for the matches. I thought everything was pretty good. The first night I thought was better. A couple people asked me on YouTube and Twitter what night did I like best. I think the first night was much better. I liked Roman Reigns. I'm sorry, excuse me. Let me rewind that. I liked Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. I really like him. I'd actually just got a bunch of his energy drinks. I want to try them this weekend over the break. And like I said, I enjoyed that. I like the Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair taking some time off. So she's dropping the title to Rhea Ripley at Mania. I thought that was pretty cool. I think Rhea Ripley is definitely ready. I really like her. I didn't at the beginning, but she's really grown on me as far as, you know, like I said, her gimmick, she's kind of an acquired taste, I think. But I enjoyed their match. It was really good. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Logan Paul match with Seth Rollins, and then obviously had the tag matches with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Usos. I thought that was a great match. I think that was I like that match a lot more than I like the first night a lot more than the second night. Obviously, you had Edge and Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell. I thought that was pretty good. Unfortunately, they had kind of slow it down and stop it a little bit because Finn Balor, if you look on Twitter, took a big hit to the head. Probably like maybe they said about 3-inch gash or something like that. So he got a pretty good gash. So they stapled him up and they gave him a numbing agent at ringside so he could continue the match. Obviously, it's WrestleMania. The makeup really helped. You didn't see a whole much, but you knew something had happened. Because you saw, like I said, you saw the doctors and the trainers and all coming in. But he was all right. They stabled him up right at ringside, and then he continued the match. Good for him, man. Definitely a tough guy. And his match with Edge was pretty cool. I would have liked to have seen Edge's wife, Beth Phoenix, involved a little bit, but she wasn't at all. Obviously, he's playing the good guy, so she's not going to interfere. But I would like to have seen her involved a little bit in Mania, but she wasn't. And then the second night, like I said, I didn't particularly. I really thought Cody should have went over on Roman, personally, but he didn't. They're saying they're going to stretch this out now a little bit. Kind of worrying to me as somebody who's a fan of Cody. We all saw what happened with Lex Luger and Yokozuna back in the day when they try to stretch things out longer. It just didn't work. Usually it gives the back time to sour on the person, or usually if they don't put it to you on Mania, you're not kind of like a main event guy. But I don't know. We'll see what they do. Like I said, I'm very interested to see what happens here going forward with Cody. He's actually cut a lot of good promos, stuff like that. I really like him in WWE. I liked him in AEW as well, but like I said, I'm curious what they're going to do with him now. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Like I said, the first night I thought was better. Second night, definitely match of the night was definitely Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and Gunther for the IC belt. I thought that was actually, in my opinion, I thought that was match of the night, personally. That was a brutal match to watch. Those guys were really rough on each other. But like I said, it was a great match, and I thought that was definitely a match of the night. The second night. First night, I really think, and I'm not just saying because I'm a fan of his, but I do like Logan Paul. I've always been a fan of his since the Vine days. But I really do think that him and Seth Rollins really tore the house down. I do have the Hell in a Cell match was good as well. I really, like I said, I thought that was a good match as well. Like I said, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte was good. There was a lot of good matches, definitely, but I do think the first night was better than the second night. Second night had its moments, though. But, and then obviously we had one of the moments that sticks out to everybody is when, Shane McMahon blew his knee out. I thought that was pretty fun. Not funny, but there's comparisons on TikTok, people when his father blew out his quadriceps and how Shane blew his out. It's just funny that the father does it, and then a couple decades later, almost to the day, the son does it. So it was just kind of humorous. There was a lot of funny memes online, but like I said, interesting to see what's going to happen going forward. I don't think WWE definitely is not going anywhere, but I would be interested to see now that one company owns the UFC and they own WWE. There's been a lot of speculation about this. Triple H recently did an interview on Logan Paul's podcast talking about how the UFC has been struggling a little bit lately. While as far as I wouldn't say struggling as in financially, but they've been struggling to develop and make new stars like the caliber of Tito or Chuck Liddell or Rich Franklin or any of those guys. Since The Ultimate Fighter went off the air, there hasn't been a real way to make stars like that anymore. You don't have, the Ronda Rouseys anymore. As you don't have that system, you don't have Forrest Griffins anymore. You don't have anybody they bought out all their competition, so they can't bring anybody over from Pride or Elite Combat, any of those things. So it's a very tough situation for them because UFC really, I don't want to say burned themselves out, but as a business that relies on selling stuff on pay-per-views or digital pay-per-views, whatever you want to call it nowadays, it's tough because they don't have any huge stars. The last really big star they had coming in was Conor McGregor, and then before that they had Brock Lesnar, and they've kind of relied on bringing, CM Punk. They've relied on bringing in WWE guys and guys with already known names to keep the buy rates up on their pay-per-views. Well, they don't have that right now. So I'd be curious to see. They brought in Logan Paul. Logan Paul's younger brother in at one point. They don't have, like I said, they don't have anybody like Ronda Rousey or Tito or Chuck Liddell or anybody really like that anymore. Conor McGregor they did, but I think he's kind of maybe done now, or he's going into boxing because the purses are bigger. But they need, what I'm thinking what the plan is here, what I'm thinking is they're going to use WWE guys that WWE has the ability to plan the outcomes where UFC doesn't. So they can make a star bigger and bigger, because they plan the outcomes and plan the storyline. UFC can't do that. Which is kind of why UFC's been struggling in China, because every time they have a big fight over there, the person that's, supposed to win, they hope is going to win and get the company over there, loses, and then it kind of loses its steam. So with WWE, they can plan and build the outcomes where UFC can't. So what I'm thinking they're going to do is they're going to take people that have come through WWE's development and came up on WWE TV that have a name, and then maybe say, okay, your WWE contract is up, or you have a contract with WWE, but since UFC is owned by the same company, if you want to jump ship with your contract, you can. And I have a feeling they're gonna be like what WCW was and poach. Maybe not as much as far as poaching that much talent. They don't need to do a show every single week like WWE does. But I have a feeling you're gonna see UFC start poaching WWE talent, or you're gonna see WWE talent that'll say, okay, listen, your title run here is over. you kind of lost your WWE steam. How about you come over to WWE and we'll WFC, and we can use your already established name and following, and we'll build you up. You get a couple of big pay-per-view fights out of it. So I'm thinking that's what they're going to do. And if this is the case, I think it's a genius move because, it's just they can build stars over in WWE and then bring them over to UFC. And they, UFC doesn't have the Ultimate Fighter anymore. They don't have the development territory anymore. They don't have any of that. So it's very difficult for them to really build guys up. And that's kind of, I think, what the plan here is. By purchasing WWE, it'll give them a launching pad where they'll be able to kind of build up these new stars that they couldn't do before. So we'll have to wait and see, but I do think that is going to be the plan going forward here is, okay, here's what we'll do. We're going to grab these guys that either are at the middle of their career or lost the steam, or say WWE doesn't have a spot for them at the moment, or WWE just doesn't have anything for them as far as TV storylines. Well, maybe we can scoop those guys up. So I think I know where they're going with this. I don't think it's going to affect WWE at all. I think they're going to let WWE just keep operating the way they are. They're just going to use them for scooping up their talent, because that's one thing that UFC is really struggling with is getting new talent in the door. So I wanted to bring that up because that was big news. That was trending all over the internet Monday, and obviously Triple H addressed it because people were really worried. Also, too, like I said, as far as tech news goes, we have WWDC coming up here. As soon as the summer's coming around, a lot of people think they're going to debut a new 15-inch MacBook Air. I think that would be nice. I know a lot of friends of mine that have not bought Macs because they don't want to lose the big screen, but they don't want to spend money on the big MacBook Pros or the big, So I have a feeling, Apple's always kind of had that smaller screen, cheaper MacBook. That's kind of been what they've been pushing for a while now, and I think they need a bigger screen, lower end machine. And I think that'll round out their skewed nicely there at the lower levels for just the average user. So I think that's going to happen. Also, like I said, I've been looking. I'm still using the Intel. I'm using an i9, and I'm still using that because I use it for editing the podcast. I use it for making shorts. Which a lot of you guys know me from finding my shorts on YouTube and stuff like that. YouTube.com/TheTechnologyGeek.org. And like I said, a lot of you guys know me from my shorts, wrestling, tech shorts, all that kind of stuff I do. I like to do shorts on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. That's just kind of been my thing. I've never really had a lot of luck with the long form videos. Rumble, I've had a lot of luck with streaming and stuff like that on there, but that's a little bit different. Twitch, I've had a lot of luck, but that's gaming stuff, not so much long form YouTube videos. But I like doing the shorts and stuff like that. You remember Vines and all that too. That was a thing, but that was 4 seconds. Now I got 60 seconds to work with now. So I've been using that. I've been debating. I've had this Mac for about 3 years now. It's the 16-inch. I'm on the go a lot, so I really need a big screen laptop. I've been thinking about possibly upgrading to an M1 or M2. I'm not really sure yet. I'm kind of kicking it around, and I'm going to see how it goes. Like I said, I do some iMovie stuff, but I do a lot of it for my gaming videos and stuff. But I don't know if I need necessarily something that can do raw 4K or any of those, or any of the raw or the 4K, because I do stream in high def and in 4K, but I mostly, like I said, I do snippets and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure. I want to, because who doesn't want a new laptop? Any tech person wants a new laptop. We all love it. But I'm not sure if it's worth me spending the $2 or $3 grand for it. Only because, like I said, I don't do as much editing, long form stuff. iMovie, I do probably maybe 3, 4, 5 minute videos at most. And I do edit clips together and stuff like that. But again, you're talking minute clips, maybe 4 or 5 minute clips, 10 minutes the most usually. So it's not usually that big of a tax on the Intel Mac. I do hear the fans and stuff spinning up on it, but it's still pretty speedy. I know they said the M2 especially could, people have said, well, it increases your workflow by 20-30%, which is a lot, but I don't know if, it's really worth it yet. So we'll see. And as far as editing, podcasts and all that kind of stuff go, at GarageBand, I use GarageBand, which obviously is a lot, is much better than, most. But again, audio, that's the thing too. Audio really isn't. I have a friend of mine that's still using a laptop that's like even 5 or 6 years old just to do his podcast, because audio editing really isn't that taxing on an actual device. It's mostly the video editing. So like I said, that's the real one that you got to be concerned about. So that's the one I'm looking at it. I thought about going 14-inch MacBook Pro, but then the problem is, like I said, I don't want to lose the extra screen display, because I do actually, I'm on the go a lot, and I do have a big 50-some inch monitor at home that I do use when I'm editing. But like I said, I'm on the go a lot, so I do need something I can kind of sometimes just stick on a table in a coffee shop, or at a WeWork or something like that, and just go with it. So because I use a WeWork and a shared office space a lot, some of that. So, I need something that I could stick on a table and go. And, I don't think a big like somebody said, why don't you just get a Mac Studio? And I'm like, yeah, but the problem is that's a desktop. I need a laptop. I will say one thing though. I've been using a Windows. I have a Dell XPS, which is a pretty high-end Windows laptop. I use that as well because I do need a Windows machine for some of the stuff I do. And I hate to bash, Microsoft or Windows, because the Dell XPS 15 is a great machine, and I'd really recommend it for anybody who wants to go Windows and do content creation and stuff like that. It really is a great machine. My wife uses it a lot for Adobe products, some of that, and the GPU on it, all that's great. It's a great machine. I definitely recommend that. I game on it. Those of you that watch my streams, I game on it, so that you really can't game on a Mac. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because that's such a great machine, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I can, if I do need to do any long-form video editing, I can just do it on that machine. And I have messed with it a little bit, but I just think that I've been, the problem is I don't know what it is with Windows machines, but the audio is always the issue. I always have problems with the audio. And if anybody else listening to this has this problem, please reach out to me on Twitter, KB3YUA. It's my call sign handle. Go ahead and reach out to me, or email me, helix2301@gmail.com. Because I have the same problem. The other day I was doing a podcast, not for this. I was recording video for a podcast, not for this show, but I was helping a friend of mine out. He does more of a Windows-based kind of show. And I was helping him, and every time we'd get into Teams or Skype or any of that stuff, he kept having issues, and he has the NUC by Intel NUC, and I mean, we had the latest audio drivers on that, and we kept having issues. And then the other day, I was helping him. I was doing stuff on my laptop on the Windows machine, because I think my wife was using my Mac for something, and every time I went to snip videos, I was getting a greenish tint. Every time I do screenshots, it's like, and I have the latest drivers from Dell. I have the latest video drivers. I have all the latest, and I kept having issues. And then the other day, I was over at another friend's house trying to help him with something, and he kept having the blue screen issues on his Windows box, and I'm like I really want to be that guy that uses Windows, because I really do think Microsoft has a very open platform now compared to what they had years ago, and I do think it's but I think that tight niche thing that Apple does, and how Apple is so in control of their products and stuff like that, I think that's part of the reason why they are so far ahead of times. Because I mean, in the last 3-4 years, I've probably reloaded my Windows machine at least 2 or 3 times. I've had my Mac for at least 3 years, and I've never reloaded it once. It just works. So, I mean, I think as far as reliability goes, Mac is definitely number one. There's no doubt about it. And like I said, I love my Windows machines, but it's just yes, for gaming and stuff like that, Windows is definitely much better. But I just don't know, I can't, in good conscience, tell you, hey, get a Windows machine because it's much better. And because I'm not I like Windows, I really do. And I like Dell hardware, Lenovo hardware, but it's hard for me as somebody in the field and in the industry to tell you, hey, if you want something reliable, go get a Windows machine. Because the other day I had a friend of mine that owns her own business, and she called me. She's like, how can I turn these Windows updates off? Every time I turn my computer on and do something, I'm struggling with Windows updates. She's like, I just want to turn my computer on and get it done. And I'm like, well, you can't turn Windows updates off. That's part of the other thing. And it's hard for me to tell people, hey, yeah, go with the Windows box, but just so you know, you may have issues with Windows updates. And I hate to be that guy, but. And even like Microsoft with their Surface hardware, I have friends of mine that love Surface, and they're like, how come you never tell people to go with Surface hardware? Surface hardware is great. And I'm like, I can't in good conscience tell somebody to go with Microsoft Surface hardware because I've ran into a lot of issues with it over the years. And while I do like it, it's just hard for me to justify and tell somebody, yeah, go get Windows, go get Microsoft Surface hardware, because Surface has had so many reliability issues over the year that literally they have consumer reports that have taken them off the list as far as PC manufacturers that they recommend. That's saying something, and especially Surface hardware, because Microsoft's making the hardware. They say they are, but we all know that they have it made by a third party. Now with Xbox is a little bit different. A couple people have said to me about Xbox reliability. Now I know I have the X because I wanted to future-proof myself, but I know a lot of people are still using the S, and it works. I remember when I had the original Xbox and the Xbox 360, and I remember both of them. I always had issues with the red ring of death and all that kind of stuff. Not as much of an issue. I know some people have had issues with Xbox hardware, but you don't hear as much about reliability issues with the Xbox as you used to. I think that's pretty safe. Like, people say to me all the time, would you get an Xbox? And I say, yeah, it's a little cheaper than a PlayStation. PlayStation does have exclusives. I know a lot of people will go PlayStation over Xbox, but I don't know. I've had a lot of good luck with my Xbox, and I really like the Xbox Game Pass. My daughter and I actually share it, so we kind of get our money's worth out of that stuff, and then also through the exclusives and all that kind of stuff. So I will say I really enjoy the Xbox, and Game Pass, and I haven't had no problems. And I would recommend an Xbox to people, but I know for a fact that a lot of people have gone PlayStation, especially because of the whole Spider-Man exclusive. A lot of my friends that are big into those games specifically get the Sony because they want the Spider-Man games. But I have a feeling you're going to see that eventually get less and less. I remember when I was younger, Final Fantasy was always exclusively on PlayStation, and now you can get it on Xbox, you can get it on your phone, you can get it on anything now. For a while there, it was still exclusive, but they've gone away from that now, and I think that's going to be more and more common as time goes on now, that games are going to be multi-platform. We still have some people that, indie developers are still going to develop for whatever platform they want to. They're pushing, and that's something too. With Stadia, I had a friend of mine. He was actually he works for a company, and I think he spent a year of development working on their Stadia game, and then literally a couple weeks before they went to launch, Stadia closed down. And I remember how upset he was. The company, it was just a lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted time, and that's I think a big reason why. If Google's saying they might have another gaming strategy coming up, I'd be very hesitant. I know games like PUBG and a lot of those big games, Destiny, spent a lot of time and money to get on Stadia to try to grow their brand, and it just didn't last that long. But I like Stadia. The reason why I like Stadia was it really was. I definitely think Google was going the right way with it. I do think Microsoft especially is going to kind of run with the cloud gaming thing, because they've seen a lot of growth in that market, and I think that they're going to run with it. But I think Google had the right hardware, had the right idea, but I just don't think they could get the everybody behind it. It's pretty bad when they're refunding everybody. That just shows you how much it didn't take off when they start refunding people for games and upgrades and all that they bought. That's pretty bad. So I got caught with that because I was using Stadia to play PUBG all the time because I really liked it. And I figured, well, I don't need to buy a console because I like PUBG. I've really gotten into more games, but at the time I was really into PUBG, and I'm like, well, I'll just keep playing PUBG. It's on here. It's working out, you know. I don't need to buy a console. I just pay $10 a month and I could play. And on Destiny too, I'm a big Destiny fan. I was like, okay, well, I can play these 2 games on here. These are my 2 big games. You know, I could always, you know, I'll just stick with this for right now. But apparently, you know, when it all went out, I lost a lot of loot and stuff I had on PUBG. I lost a bunch of stuff I had on Destiny. I mean, I tried to link my accounts and save some of that stuff, and I did, but it was very complicated, and it wasn't enough support. Again, the problem is, you know, and it comes down to, okay, if I'm PUBG, how much money am I going to spend to try to help these people when it's such a small market anyway? And it was getting even, and especially since they didn't do cross-platform on Stadia, if you were using anything else besides a controller, you were playing against mostly bots. So I think that was part of the problem too. But like I said, that was Stadia was real upsetting. But like I said, what's nice about Stadia is you could play games on a Mac because all you needed was the Chrome browser loaded, and that was it. But you could do the same thing now with Microsoft if you're on a Mac. Because I know a couple friends of mine do this. They have Xbox, but they have Macs, and you can just use Edge, and you can load your games up right through Edge. That's what a lot of people do, and that works out pretty well. Even people that are on, I think Linux now can even play, because as long as they have the Edge browser, which Edge comes, you know, you can get Edge on Linux now. So, but I thought that's pretty cool. But like I said, I've been kicking around the whole idea, like I said, of getting a new Mac. I'm still debating. I think Apple definitely, the first couple years, I'm glad. I will say this, I'm glad I was on Intel the first couple years, because there was a lot of compatibility. I would say maybe a year after the M1 came out, the compatibility issues were getting less and less. But at the beginning, there was a lot of compatibility issues I had at the beginning. Rosetta fixed most of them, but you know, I think now all those problems now have been completely worked out. So the other thing somebody had asked me online that I had noticed, they had asked if I was getting the new Apple Watch, the Ultra. I do like it. I thought about getting it when the first came out. The hype was around it. The problem is while it is a great watch, and I think it is something that I would be interested in it, because it'd be really cool to have a watch that's, you know, practically indestructible. For me, I just don't know. I just can't justify the extra money right now, only because I'm not a diver. I'm not somebody who goes, you know, who's a big adventurer in the woods and all that. And that's really who it's made for, is that niche. I mean, I know you can get it even if you're not that niche and just use it as a regular Apple Watch. But for me, spending that extra money, I just don't think it's really worth it, because, again, I don't do enough hardcore outdoor stuff. Like if I was, when I was really into mountain biking a bunch of years ago, I would say maybe for that I would be okay with it, because it's, you know, it's more durable. I keep a case. I have a case on mine anyway, a bumper. They call it a bumper. A case on mine anywhere, and a screen protector always, because I'm really bad with stuff on my wrist, in the sense of I bump into stuff all the time with my wrist. That's just when your hands are always working with computer hardware, or always busy, you know, programming or something like that. You tend to, you know, you reach for something, you forget, you know, and you smack your wrist into something. I mean, I'm a bad one for that. So I always keep a bumper and a screen protector on it. And I also have the Apple Care on it too. So I'm not as worried about it, if I'm being honest with you. But I think I would buy the laptop over the watch, only because like I said, I don't know if I can. The watch, I think all the extra features are awesome, but I just think it'd be such a waste for me financially, because I don't think, besides a longer battery life and the fact that it's always waterproof, don't think there's any other reason to buy it. And I don't think that's enough to justify it personally. I mean, I take my rings and all that off when I go swimming anyway, so I mean, it's just taking I know, and plus too, if I wanted to swim laps, I can turn on swim mode on the regular watch. So it's just one of those things. I'm just not really sure it's worth it for me. Like I said, maybe if I had more, you know, maybe if I was more into outdoorsy stuff in the summer when I'm fishing and stuff like that, you know, it would be worth it. But like I said, that's been that. The other thing too, some people have asked me about Apple One. I actually don't have Apple One. I did have Apple Music for a while, but my wife and I, we have a family plan for Spotify, my wife and kids, and that works out pretty well. We also have YouTube Premium, and then we also have Sirius XM. So between those 3 music services, there's always something I want to listen to. So I don't bother with Apple Music. I mostly listen to stuff on Sirius, to be honest with you. I like Howard Stern. I like Megyn Kelly's got a pretty good show on there. And then I have some podcasts I listen to and stuff like that. And then, like I said, a lot of music stations I like on there, stuff like that. I do like the playlists on Spotify, but I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of a big Sirius XM guy. I like how you could just pick something and just, pick a channel or an artist and just kind of run with it on Sirius. And I know you can do the same thing on Spotify, but with Sirius, they own Pandora, and the music matching just seems to work better and stuff like that. I think that's really, when it comes to any kind of radio, I really think satellite Sirius has that kind of whole market down. And I mean, they're number one in the podcasting industry now, which is really amazing for them, that they went from a company that was a radio in a car now to being the number one podcast platform in the world. I mean, that just shows you they kind of saw the change coming. That's why they bought Stitcher. That's why they bought Pandora. So I'm really, like I said, I mostly use satellite Sirius, the app mostly, and then I do have it in the car, but I mostly use the app. And then, like I said, we do have Spotify, and I do think Spotify is a little bit better than Apple Music because they do music curations a little better. But like I said, I'm one of those people. But I'm a big music junkie. I have the latest, the latest version of the AirPods. I really like them. Especially the new ones. My old ones I bought them right when they first came out. I've had them since 2019. And the battery was pretty much dying on them, so I decided to get the new Pros. I do like them. I've kind of got a bit of a headphone addiction. I've got Sony's. I have the Apple, the big ones, the AirPod Max. I have the regular AirPods that just hang in your ears, the cheap ones. I have the Pros. I have Beats. I actually tried the Microsoft Surface Buds for a while. I've got a bit of a headphone addiction problem. I openly admit that. I'm a big music junkie. I do like that. Now, I know a lot of people say to me, well, I should get Apple Music because of the lossless audio. But the problem is that I have to, and I do agree with you, but the problem is that I have to use wired headphones. And I am notorious for yanking those things and pulling those things out of my ears, and I don't want to break the charging port on my new iPhone, because I do have the 14 now. I traded in my 12 for the 14, and I don't want to risk that, But I will say, if you guys are thinking about trading in your iPhone, the always-on display and the 120 watts always-on display and the refresh rate does make the phone a lot smoother. And I have to say, after going with a 100 hertz screen, I don't know if I could go back to a 60 hertz screen. And even with the watch, the always-on display on the watch, I got to be honest with you, I don't know how I lived for all those years with the watch face constantly turning off. And even with the phone, I don't know how now with the always-on display, I don't know how I had a display turned off all those years. So, it's different. So, like I said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. I haven't done a podcast in a while, but I do enjoy doing them. I'm probably going to do more of them. I do like that long-form audio style I always have. But like I said, if you want to check me out, it's youtube.com. Like I said, /thetechnologygeek.org. That's where you can find all my shorts and all that. I'm on Twitter, all that. And like I said, thetechnologygeek.org is the website. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you very much.